Okay, so today I'm going to walk you through how to grade your India map, all right? This scale is what we're going to use for how you're going to convert your score over to mastery. So each step is worth 1 point. There's 12 steps, so there's 12 points total, all right? So then at the end, you'll just add it up, and whatever you have out of 12 will be the score that you write on the line, and then you can write whether you are needing support, partially meet, near, meeting, or mastering the standard, okay? All right, so let's start with step number 1, okay? Step number 1 is your title. So there's several options, but the best title is the one you see right here. Ancient India Landscape and Resources. Ancient, I prefer if you have the word ancient in your title because Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro are ancient cities that are no longer called that. So if you don't, I'll still let you keep it. Another title that you might have chosen would be like India Geography Map or something like that. Or any combination of these terms. Like maybe you said India Landforms and Climate Map or anything there. Pretty much the only title that just doesn't work is if you just said India Map. Otherwise, this is the best title, okay? So if you got that step correct, down here on this line next to step 1, give yourself 1 point. If it's incorrect, 0. Okay. I am going to take questions at the end. Okay. All right, let's move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is your compass rose. Pretty simple. It doesn't really matter where you put the compass rose. This is a good spot. But you need to check your labels. So you have the never eat soggy waffles little trick. The intermediate directions, make sure they're labeled correctly. North comes first on the top, south comes first on the bottom. And all your letters should be capitalized on a compass rose. If you got that correct, go down here to step number 2 and give yourself 1 point. Let's just say you forgot to label the intermediate directions or something, then I'd let you give yourself a half point. Okay? All right, let's move on to step number 3. Step number 3 is latitude and longitude. The lines were drawn for you, so all you had to do was look at the picture that was posted. This line here is 20 degrees north. This is 10 degrees north, 70 degrees east, and 90 degrees east. Some people might have added in an 80 degrees east line. That's fine, you do not have to. But if you labeled this 80 degrees east, that's wrong. These are pretty much the only right answers. So if you have all of that right, go ahead and down to step 3 and give yourself 1 point. Let's see, some things people might have done wrong. Maybe you forgot the directions, like you didn't put east or north. Then I think in this case we should know that by now. That would just be 0 points. Okay. Maybe you just put 80 degrees here and all the rest were right. You just circle it and write in any correct answers that you need to, but then maybe I'd let you give yourself a half point there. So if you missed one of these little answers, you can give yourself a half point. Okay. Go ahead and mark your score on step 3. Moving on to step number 4. Step number 4 says use labels to show the name of the region. Ancient India or India, either one, as long as it's written somewhere inside the white area of the subcontinent, then you get your points. This is worth 1 point. It should be capitalized. We'll go back and check for that later. So we're on step 4. We label the word India or ancient India across the land, and you get your point. Moving on to step 5. Step 5 is cities. The only cities you're supposed to include on your map are the ones listed in your notes, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. Now, I noticed a lot of people were confused on this. We drew the Indus River together. And if you notice when you looked at the map, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were right next to the Indus River. Mohenjo-Daro was actually touching the river. Harappa was just like a fingertip away from the river. So if you put Harappa or Mohenjo-Daro out here in the white space of India, that's wrong. That's a misconception. Some people, I think what they thought was that that river was like the boundary line of India, and so that's why they thought the cities were inside. This river is where these very first cities started, but later on they divided off the boundaries for modern India, and it did not include the Indus River. So that's why this river and these cities are outside the borders of modern day India. So if yours look like they're about here, you can give yourself 1 point on step 5. Because that was a little bit tricky, I will basically, if your cities are inside the white area of India, just count it wrong, okay, and give yourself, I'll let you just give yourself a half point on that. Otherwise, when I go back and look over this to grade it, I will make corrections as I feel needed. So if I feel like I'm going to give you some points back, or if I feel like I need to take more off, I'll just do that. Okay. So this is the right place. If theirs looks about like this, even if Mohenjo-Daro is up just a little higher, but they both need to be close to this river and not inside of India. That's really what I'm looking for. And if that's what you did, then you get your point. Otherwise, give yourself a half point, and then I'll just decide when I grade it. So that's step 5. Step 6, landforms. There were a lot. There were 6 different landforms. So you want to count and make sure. Let's just kind of start at the top left. The Hindu Kush, easy to forget. It's right up here above the Indus River. Then you should have drawn and labeled the Indus River. Below that, right around here, is the Thar Desert, or you could have called it the Great Indian Desert. Either of those titles works. You don't have to have both. Himalayas are up along here, so you should have written that here. And the Himalayas are outside the boundary line of India, so the title should be outside the white. You should have drawn the Ganges River in, which I believe we did together, and then labeled it Ganges River, and then Deccan Plateau right in the middle. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you get 1 point on step 6. Let's say though you forgot one. Like maybe you forgot the Hindu Kush, or maybe you forgot the Deccan Plateau. I'll let you give yourself a half point, but take your ink pen and write in the correct answer where it should have gone. Okay, so that is step 6, landforms. Okay. Moving on to step 7, bodies of water. In your notes, there were 3 bodies of water listed. Here's about the right area. And because bodies of water flow into each other, it's okay if the Indian Ocean is like down here. It's okay even if you labeled Indian Ocean over here. But the Arabian Sea should be closer to this area of land. Indian Ocean can be labeled anywhere down here. And the Bay of Bengal needs to be closer to the land since it's a bay. Okay. So if you have all 3, you get 1 point on step 7. I'll say if you forgot one of them, I'll let you get a half point, but you can't miss any more than that. If you miss more than one, it's a 0 on step 7. Okay, step 8 is by far the hardest step. This is landscape. Now mine was colored with a digital tool and it looks terrible, okay? So let's just humor me, okay? Landscape, first of all, we should have 3 colors. Now, I added a 4th one, but see, I said not necessary. Some people felt like they wanted an extra color for mountains, but it's okay. So if you didn't add mountains, the rugged plateaus could have been this area up here. One thing I want to make sure you know is that landscape all flows into each other. So, and when you were looking at the map of India, the map that had like a really bumpy texture was pretty much most of India. So I colored this area, and even if you extended the rugged plateaus up through here, that's okay. But really what I'm looking for is and you should not have like a little green perimeter around the subcontinent. Just because it's near the ocean doesn't make it green or fertile. Some people just looked at the map and they thought, oh, it's green everywhere in the picture, so I'm going to color green. But no, it was talking about elevation. So we know that usually anytime you have land next to a river, it's flat and fertile. So this is the Ganges River, and around the Ganges River, all this area here should be green. This area was tricky. I'll be pretty lenient. Even if you left this white, I'll still give you your points. There was a little area where it was mountainous, a little area where it looked fertile, and then another area where it looked a little bit rugged. So I was trying to make it as accurate as I could. Ignore this little mess up there, okay? Or if you colored, actually, it doesn't even matter to me because this was really hard, so don't worry about this area. But the desert, this is important. This area over here should be whatever color you chose for desert. And just think about this. If you labeled it Great Indian Desert, yet you colored it green for fertile plains, that makes no sense. I've seen kids do that year after year. So you want to make sure that whatever, it's colored the color for desert. You did not have to color green up around the Indus River since it's outside the borders of India. I did just because it's fertile there. And then I added a separate color for mountainous up here. However, if you made your rugged plateaus extend all the way up into here or even all the way over here, that's totally fine as well. So what I'm looking for, you should have 3 colors in your legend. A 4th one is fine. And then it should look about like this, okay? And so let's just do this one all or nothing. When I collect these, I will sort of regrade it. And if I feel like I want to give you partial credit, I'll add points back in. So if you have 3 colors and you have the fertile land around the river, desert over here, and everything else is rugged plateaus, you get 1 point. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. If you colored a bunch of green everywhere, just go ahead and put a 0 on this step. That's wrong, okay? Unless your green is rugged plateaus. So that step's really hard. So if it looks about like mine, give yourself a point. If not, give yourself a 0, and then I will decide if I want to give you points back when I collect it and grade it. Step 9. This is your resources. So your resources in your notes were cotton and iron. And it says in the directions that this should be a symbol. So it doesn't need to be like a little color blob, all right? Cotton, and honestly, cotton might look like a little fluffy cotton ball or an iron bar. Cotton is a plant, so that's going to be where the fertile plains are. So your cotton should be in your green or in your fertile area or next to a river. And iron is something we're going to mine for. So I put that out in the Deccan Plateau. I don't know necessarily about the desert. I would accept it probably if you had some iron in the desert. But pretty much don't put your iron in the fertile plains, okay? So if you have cotton and iron in the legend and you have cotton and iron in the right places on the map, you can give yourself 1 point. Let's say you forgot one, and I'm not worried about how many symbols you have. Really, at least 2 would be good. But maybe you put the pictures on the map, but you forgot in the legend, or you put it in the legend and you didn't get it quite right on the map. If you didn't get them quite right, give yourself a 0, and I'll add points back in when I grade it. Okay. Moving on to step 10, climate. For climate, this is super easy. All you gotta do, which you can't read it here, is take the language that's on your Cornell notes and turn it into a complete sentence here. So it should sound something like this. The climate of India is hot and humid because of monsoons. It has dry airflow in winter and wet airflow in summer. I'm looking for both of those sentences because they were in the Cornell notes. So if you only said the climate of India is hot and humid because of monsoons, you get half a point. You really needed to add in this other bit of information because when we looked at those pictures of the monsoons, and I want you to know why why the monsoons are in the summer and not in the winter time. Okay. What else? Oh, we'll go back and grade for capitalization later. So if you have both of those bits of information from the Cornell notes, you get 1 point for climate. If you only have one of those sentences, it's half point. And I guess if it's, maybe you put something that's completely not climate, 0. Or if you didn't do it at all, 0. Okay, we're almost done. Step 11 is on neatness and quality. So for here, I'm looking for, did you write neatly? You should have labeled in pencil, so it shouldn't be labeled in a colored pencil or a highlighter or something. Sometimes people outline something in like a dark pen, and that's fine, as long as it looks neat. Lightly colored, like honestly this looks kind of bad because I had to do it online. But as long as you can read your labels through your writing, that's light enough. And you should have only colored landscape. Sometimes people color in all the ocean blue. And it's really, at this point in the year, about, can you follow the steps? So you should not have to color the ocean blue. So for this step, it's worth 1 point. If it's really dark and hard to read, or if you colored the oceans blue and it just looks sloppy, I'll give yourself a half point. Otherwise, I'll deduct some more points on that one. So if, as a general rule, feel free, you can ask a partner if this looks neat to them. Generally, most kids do pretty well, but if it's really dark and scribbled, then that's a 0 on step 11. Step 12, capitalization, punctuation, spelling. I'm going to leave this here on the screen, or if you're watching this as a video, you're going to want to pause it. Pretty much the rule here is almost everything on a map is a proper noun, so you're going to want it to start with a capital letter. Every word in the title should start with a capital letter. Every landform that you labeled, every city, every ocean, the letters on the compass rose, the latitude, longitude should be a capital letter. And then check your climate. The sentence for climate should start with a capital letter and have punctuation. So count up how many mistakes you found. I don't expect perfection. So, as a general rule, if you have 3 tiny mistakes, you can still get your full points, 1 point. Okay. If you have 4 mistakes, you can get a half point. But if you have 5 or more mistakes, it's a 0 on this step. So, if you'll go ahead and put your score next to step 12. Okay. And then you want to add up all the numbers along the line. 12 is the maximum. Put the number next to that. And then off to the side, I want you to write, I'm going to put this original grading score back up here. This is what you're looking for here. Okay. And then go ahead and write how many you got out of 12, and then write the conversion score next to that. Okay. So if you got 12 out of 12, then off to the side, I might write, or down below, I might write 10 mastery. Or if I got a 9 out of 12, I'm going to put 7.5 partially meet standard. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on the screen, add up your score, and then convert it to this mastery scale out of 10. Okay, so 10 is the maximum. Okay, great job.